Welcome to Season 3 of the Retail Tea Break podcast. My name is Melissa Moore, the Retail Advisor, and each week I'll be joined by industry experts, retailers, and product creators to decode the myths, share knowledge, and give you an insight into the industry. So grab your cup of tea, sit back, relax, and listen in to Season 3 of the Retail Tea Break podcast. On today's episode of the Retail Tea Break podcast, there's just me. This is the 13th episode of season 3, and can you believe we've had 25 episodes in 2022? It's been phenomenal. So today's episode is about recapping season 3 and also looking forward to 2023 when we have season 4 and season 5. So we started off season 3 of the Retail Tea Break podcast with the incredible Owen Clifford, head of the retail sector within Bank of Ireland. And Owen was really honest in this episode. Yes, we talked about whether we'd have a recession or not. We certainly talked about the rising inflation and the honest, true impact that it's having on the retail sector right now. Owen, obviously working for a bank, has his finger on the pulse, but he also goes around the country talking to retailers of all sizes. So we talked about how the retail sector is currently performing. And even though this was recorded back in September, it's incredibly valid today. We looked at consumer sentiment and maybe how consumers might be spending at this time of year and going into next. He talked really honestly, and I think he surprised a lot of people about the kind of idea of making sales and it not just to be about the actual price, about adding value, about the other things retailers could do. And I suppose to me, it surprised me because he talked about the very essence of retailing. So how do you sell to someone when it's not just about the price? How can you add value? How can you show your expertise? How can you kind of prove you're a legacy business? And how can you entice customers to keep coming back? And he also then spoke about the value conscious consumer and the golden quarter, which we're in at the moment. And it's true out there. Consumers are looking for more value this year. And no doubt, coming into 2023, it will be exactly the same. And I'd urge you, if you're not already following Owen on LinkedIn, to definitely do so. He has some incredible data that he releases every now and again. And it's really valuable to have a read so that you too can know what's going on within the industry in Ireland. Episode 2 of season 3 of the Retail Tea Break podcast was with the incredible Caitlin Brozak. Caitlin spoke to us about being customer first creative, and that title fascinated me, but she really spoke to us about how she puts the consumer at the heart of every decision. This is true customer centricity for a small business. She spoke to us as marketing and brand manager at All About Kombucha about juggling things, about wearing many hats, that actually, even though she was the marketing and brand manager, she could be filling bottles. She would be talking to consumers and answering the phone. She was doing everything. And she loved it. And it drove the business. And she was really honest in this episode about how the fact it's not always right. Things aren't always as easy as they seem. And I know from the feedback from this episode that it resonated with an awful lot of small retailers and makers who do juggle everything, that things don't always go right. And it was that honesty and that openness in this episode that people really appreciated. So as I say, she spoke about the reality of being a marketing manager in this small, incredible business in the heart of the west of Ireland. She told us about what's gone wrong in the past and actually what she's learned and what we can all learn from that. She spoke about this incredible idea of being a customer first creative. And I know that resonated with a lot of you. And it's a wonderful idea that actually every day, if you put the customer at the heart of each and every decision that you make, it really pays off. And then finally, she spoke to us about collaborating with other brands, which I know is something that an awful lot of people look at nowadays. And All About Kombucha have been really successful from it. So finally, then she spoke to us about her new business as a freelancer for Plonmore, a female-led digital creative agency who want to help and support businesses. So it's great to see this circular economy, even from Caitlin, about how she's giving back. Season 3 Episode 3 of season 3 of the Retail Tea Break podcast was a fantastic collaboration with the guys from Salesforce. And we spoke about planning for Christmas and the holiday season. So we're in the very thick of it right now as I record this episode. And so much of what was said has rung true. So I spoke to Jenny McGinn, head of e-commerce for Lifestyle Sports, this incredible powerhouse of an Irish retailer. I spoke to Paul Gillard, Chief Operating Officer of the Skin Nerd, and again, Skin Ingredients and the Skin Nerd, two amazing businesses who really do listen to their customer. And then I also spoke to Gupri Kaur, Director of Retail Solutions and Strategy at Salesforce. And we talked about Salesforce's predictions for 2023 as we were coming into peak. We looked at their tips for delivering amazing experiences and how you could do that as well. We talked about the idea of hyper personalization. And I want to pull this out from this episode. And I want to urge you to go back and listen to it, because hyper personalization is going to be one of the key trends for 2023. So if you're not sure what it is, if you haven't heard too much about it, or if you're starting to come around to the idea, it is well worth it. So pop back to episode 3 and listen to Gupri tell us all about hyper personalization and how it can entice your customer to not only buy from you, but to keep coming back. Episode 4 then of season 3 of the Retail Tea Break podcast was with the amazing Chris Igwe. And I was bowled over in this episode, as I'm sure you heard in my voice as I spoke to Chris. We talked about reimagining retail spaces. And Chris is this powerhouse of a retail expert who has worked with all sorts of high-end luxury and big brands all over the world. But actually, he took us back to basics. And that was the key thing from this episode. I would urge you to grab a notebook, go back and listen to the episode and really listen and understand to how Chris kind of explains the need that we should all have for listening to our customer, for talking to our customer, and just really going back to the very foundation of maybe why we started our business. We also spoke about why destination retail shopping may not be a thing of the past. We just need to change how we look at it and how we also present it to our customer. We looked at what the future may hold for physical retail spaces. And again, this is a really interesting hot trend for 2023. The push, the real urgency to go after experiential retail, to have a theatre of retail in your physical store, but also it's achievable with your online store. So start to think about how you again can entice your customer to come through your doors, whether that's physical or digital, and what you can offer them. It's not enough nowadays to just offer a product. It's not enough to just offer a service. We have to excite and entice our consumers. So this idea of a theatre of retail where the staff, the team are performers, where we're exciting the audience, the consumer, to come and buy from us, is something definitely Chris talks about when we look at the future of physical stores. He talks really fondly then about retail being in the heart of the community, which again is something that key retailers are now looking for. It's part of their values. And if it's part of yours, it's definitely something to go after wholeheartedly in 2023. Episode 5 of season 3 of the Retail Tea Break podcast was with the amazing Lou Brennan. We were celebrating National Women's Enterprise Day, and Lou, as this amazing designer, spoke to us about her interesting journey starting her business. So Lou has worked in the past for the likes of John Rusher. She sold her works to big high-end luxury brands all over the world, but yet it was a struggle at the start. She had this incredible design and artistic knowledge, but not necessarily the business knowledge. And again, from talking to so many of you and so many clients, it's something I hear more and more. So Lou was really honest and open about the challenges she had starting the business, but also what she's done and the solutions she's found to overcome that. She talked about the importance of the local enterprise office and how they've helped her and how they can help you start, grow, and scale your business. She talked about developing and diversifying her range and how she's really listened to consumers to do that. And then she gave us loads and loads of advice for makers and creators, whether they were just starting out or whether they were really starting to build a momentum within their business. So again, grab a notebook, go back and listen to episode 5. Lou was amazing. It was such a joyful episode to record. Episode 6 of season 3 of the Retail Tea Break podcast was with the incredible Patrick Halson, Managing Director of Retail Integration. I learned a lot in this episode. I am very honest about the fact that I'm not techie. I have a little bit of a fear of tech, even retail tech, which surrounds me every day. But Patrick was fantastic about just bringing it back to basics once again. We know that retail tech can be so much more nowadays than just your fancy till system or stock taking. And actually, Patrick explained how it can really enhance your offering. But he also explained to me, and I'm sure to all of you, about how it can actually enhance what you deliver. It can free up your time. It can make you more efficient. And therefore, you can spend more time doing what you love, talking to the customer. He spoke to me about the changing scene and I suppose the challenging scene within the retail sector over the last 25 years. And he's seen it all in that respect. So nothing at this stage phases him at all. He spoke about how software can actually help and enhance experiential retail, which is something, again, coming into next year, into 2023, is going to be so important. And then finally, and I don't know whether he was talking to just me or some of you out there, he gave advice to retailers that are nervous about embracing technology. And again, told us how it can really enhance everything that we do on a daily basis. So that was episode 6 with the incredible Patrick Halson. Episode 7 was really special to me. I was delighted to be joined by Evelyn Moynihan, the Chief Executive Officer of Kilkenny Design. And she spoke at length about the incredible journey that Kilkenny has been on and how it's rapidly growing right now. She spoke to me really passionately about the people, the teams that are in Kilkenny, and how she's supporting them now and into next year, growing them and valuing them and training them to do their job to the best of their ability, but also then to support their customer. We looked at how the company's evolved over the last few years, and actually much of that was being online with this incredible website, but also embracing technology. So again, another key trend for 2023 embedded within episode 7 when we talked to Evelyn. She also spoke about something that I know resonated with an awful lot of you, and I've had many messages and emails about this: Kilkenny's love and support for Irish designers and Irish makers. And at no point has it been more important to do that right now, whether it's the run up to Christmas, whether that's gifting for someone in the new year, but more and more to think about supporting Irish designers, Irish makers, and no better place, I suppose, than within Kilkenny Design. Episode 8 then of the Retail Tea Break podcast for season 3 was the amazing A Lopez. I had such a giggle recording this episode. A is such a ball of energy and so passionate, just like I am, about the retail sector. And you can tell, just like me, she's been working on the shop floor in the industry for years. And it really comes through in the work that she does. So we looked at the idea of your target customer. And the reason for looking at something so simple is because so many retailers and makers just haven't visited this fundamental for years. So we know most of our shopping patterns have changed over the last couple of years, through the pandemic and coming out of it. We know maybe what we buy and how we buy it and where we buy it from has changed. But then why have so many businesses not looked at that from their perspective? So Aimee brings us back to basics. She talks about her 3-step framework, having 3 brands and 3 questions, going on a retail safari, and then looking at MVP versus MVP. And I'm going to let you listen to the episode to figure out what that all means, because she explains it in the most brilliant way. But she also talks to us about the importance of copywriting. These aren't just words on a page. These are words that drive consumers to buy from you and also to keep them coming back. And it was a really eye-opening conversation for me about the impact that copy can have, whether people buy at all, whether they return something, because actually your copy hasn't been clear, and therefore your return rate goes up. It even has legal implications that so many of us forget about. So have a listen back to episode 9 with A Lopez. It's a cracking episode. Episode 9 then of the Retail Tea Break podcast, season 3, we were back with Salesforce and with Lifestyle Sports and the Skin Nerd. And this time we talked all about loyalty, gaining and maintaining customers. So again, this is a key trend if you haven't already adopted it in 2023. Loyal consumers, research tells us, spend more. They also tend to tell their friends, their family, share it on social media. Therefore, again, they spend more. So loyal customers are definitely the way forward to build your business. So we discussed data strategy around loyalty. What sort of data should you be collecting? In the right way, remember, but also how best to use it, because we find that an awful lot of companies collect our data, the data we want to give them, but they don't use it in the right way to target us back, to entice us to buy more. We looked at how to build a loyalty program and how best to use it, but also we went back to basics. We looked at values and service proposition and how best to serve your consumer base in the long term. Episode 10 of season 3 of the Retail Tea Break podcast was with the amazing Rita Oats, the artist, the retailer, and it was such a joyful episode. Rita has so many years experience working as a retailer, but also as an artist. So this was a fascinating episode where she could show us both points of view. Rita spoke about juggling both sides of the business and how that's been hard, shall we say, over the last few years. She gave us loads of top tips, both as a retailer and as a maker, and how communication was the key to everything that we do here. She looked and she talked about leading her team and how communication from makers can really impact that. She talked about working with makers, different marketing techniques, the importance of social media, and also delivering exceptional service, both as a maker, which is sometimes forgotten, but also as a retailer. And then finally, at the end of episode 10, Rita gave us some incredible news about a new space that she's opening and how that's hoping to enhance all the artists that she's come across as well. Episode 11 of season 3 of the Retail Tea Break podcast was a really special one. It went out the week of crazy Black Friday, and we all know as retailers and makers how noisy it is that week. But episode 11 was about turning Black Friday green. I was joined by Jenny Johnson, Head of Marketing for Kilkenny Design, on behalf of Champion Green, and also Sheelin Conlon, founder of The Kind. So Champion Green have been around for a couple of years now since the pandemic hit in supporting businesses and supporting all of us to shop local. And they also launched a competition early this year, which Sheelin won, that she tells us all about. So we talk in this episode about what exactly Champion Green is, that it isn't just about getting us to spend money locally, but also how we can support local business in sharing a post on social media. We could leave a review. So it definitely dispels the myth that it's about us spending more in our local environment. There are so many ways to support local. We talked to Sheelin about starting The Kind and how she discovered sustainable, environmentally friendly products and the impact that's had on her and this business. We talk about this incredible Champion Green competition that Sheelin won and her opening up the pop-up shop for the next few months in Blackrock Village Centre. So if you're around, definitely pop in. We spoke about how it's really important to champion green and to support local, not just for Black Friday, but in the run up to Christmas, to ensure that the local businesses that we have in our main streets, in our villages, in our towns, to ensure that they're still around in the new year, and the impact that this cost of living crisis is having on businesses, and how every little bit we can spend or support will really help them. And then finally, Sheelan spoke to us about being a conscious consumer, that other kind of meaning behind Green Friday. It's a wonderful episode. And if you haven't listened yet, don't be put off by the fact that it is Black Friday based on the episode. Please go back and listen, because the message is so, so important. And then finally, then episode 12 of season 3 of the Retail Tea Break podcast, I spoke to Helena Dingley last week about content creation. Helena is the retail marketing manager with Fitbit and Google for the EMEA. And this was a brilliant, jam-packed, fast episode full of advice and ideas and tips. So I'd urge you to grab a notebook and then really listen into all the incredible, amazing advice that she's given us. She talks about content creation itself, because if, like me, it still confuses you, she's a really, really good description of it. She talks about getting the most out of your website. So for retailers and makers, it's actually looking at it more like a physical store. So everyday tasks you should be doing to enhance it. She spoke about getting to know your customer and the impact specific content can have on specific customers. So why getting to know them is the best foundation for your content creation. She spoke about being bold. And this was brilliant. This was a really good insight into how to deliver the best content creation that you can. And she also finished off by talking about the trends for 2023. So 12 episodes of season 3 of the Retail Tea Break podcast. That's on top of the 25 we had before that. So 38 episodes in all. It's been a phenomenal year, 2022, and it's one that I know a lot of us will remember for the right reasons, even though it's a tough end of year. But I suppose I want to finish today's episode by thanking you all for listening. The listenership and people watching on YouTube is up by over 400%, which is mind-blowing. The impact that this podcast is having, not only on me, but on all of you. And I see that in your messages and I hear it in the street from you. So I really want to say thank you for listening and for watching. I'd urge you to like, share and subscribe to the Retail Tea Break podcast on your favorite platform or on YouTube, because then you'll know that we're coming back for season 4 and 5 in 2023. 25 more episodes already in the planning for 2023. So I have an ask. Who would you like me to talk to in 2023? If you yourself would like to come on to the Retail Tea Break podcast, or you'd like to suggest a retailer or maker or an industry expert, please let me know. You can message me on any of the social media platforms. You can email me, melissa@theretaileradvisor.ie. I would love to hear from you as we plan 2023. So again, I'd like to thank you so much for listening and watching in 2022. It's been an incredible year for the Retail Tea Break podcast. Wishing you well, and we'll be back in 2023 with 25 more episodes.